Hey everybody, we've come to the fact that we all know that being quarantined and stuck up at home is no fun. However, when I was at my grocery store this weekend, scavenging the shelves for whatever I could find to play a nice home version of Fridge Wars, I did find a bag of cheese curds at my Aldi grocery here in the States. So what we're going to do is play a little Fridge Wars and make some quarantine poutine. Let's see how this turns out. Not having French fries readily available, you've got to do with what you have when you're making quarantine poutine. So you start out by chopping some potatoes up. I'm doing it so I can have some hash brown like potatoes. It's going to make more like a breakfast poutine, but still going to be poutine nonetheless. So I chop up and then throw them in a bowl and we'll move on. After chopping up 5 medium-sized potatoes, it looks like we've got enough to start making our hash brown base. Before I start the pan to heat up these potatoes, you got to chop a little bit of garlic so you're able to flavor the pan in the oil so the potatoes can take up a little bit of that flavor. Once the oil is nice and hot, sprinkle in the chopped garlic, some salt, pepper, and make sure the oil has a nice base flavor. The potatoes get cooked just like any other hash brown that you would do for a breakfast on any given morning that's not a quarantine. You can't have poutine without having gravy, and since this is quarantine poutine, we've got to make do with what we have on hand. So we're going to make a beef stewish style gravy. We're starting out here throwing some onions and garlic and some oil in a hot pan. We're going to add a package of the finest bottom shelf meat that was left in the store and let that brown in this pot with the onions and garlic. Vegetable selection was also lacking, so it looks like we're just going to have to butcher up some baby carrots. We had some beef stock laying about, so that should help this gravy have a little bit better flavor. To make it a little more stewy, we throw in an onion, a coarsely chopped potato, and those butchered baby carrots. Alexa, set a timer for 40 minutes.
40 minutes, starting now.
Add a splash of rice flour to thicken it up, but also to keep it gluten-free. Once the potatoes are done, you're going to want to take them out of the pan, set them aside for a little bit. And then you're going to want to wash that pan because you're going to need it in probably about 10 minutes. With an open bottle of red wine on the counter, give a splash of it into the stew, but since I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to take a bigger drink for myself. That freshly cleaned pan is going to be reused for cooking the potatoes again. However, we're going to start with some mushrooms and onions to maintain their delicate flavor before adding the rest of the potatoes back into the pan. While the potatoes were recooking, I had to chop the cheese curds down to appropriate poutine size since these crisis curds were quite large. Grab a bowl, start spooning in some potatoes. Then take a couple cheese curds and throw them on top. Ladle on some of that beefy gravy stew. Add a couple more cheese curds to it. And then you have quarantine poutine.